शोभनाध्यास निमित्त स्नेह रूपेण अरित्वादि भ्रमहेतुक द्वेष रूपेण वा देहेन्द्रियांतःकरणेषु ममता अतिशय हेतुक अविवेक रूपेण वा अभिमानेन. Abhimana, again the words in Sanskrit have different meanings in different contexts. Abhimana, you should have Deshabhimana, you should have Kulabhimana. Pride for oneself is good, but excessive pride on based upon wrong perceptions has to be decried. So Abhimana which needs to be decried is in the following context. Vishayeshu Shobhanadhyasa nimitta sneha rupena. That is, they are bad, but still you perceive that they are Shobhana, they are good. Then you get into some sneha for that. And Aritvadi Brahmahetuka Dvesha Rupena. If you have got the prejudice that he is your Ari, then you must condemn him and you should do Dvesha, then that is again another kind of negative Abhimana. Dehendriyantah Karaneshu Mamata Atishaka Hetuka Aviveka Rupena. If you are getting into the irrationality of having excessive attachment to your own body, somebody else's body, mamata, that it is mine, it is my people, that also is Abhimana. So give up these and see what happens. To give an example, on the television when a catastrophe takes place or when the killing takes place, many dead bodies are shown, people crying are shown. Do we also immediately start crying? No, because there is no, so we do feel of course very remorse and grief and so on, but not to the extent that the relatives show. They have the feeling of mamata and we do not have that abhimana. So all these sermons will have to be understood and reflected upon and preached in proper perspective. It does not mean that you
attachment, sir?
It's attachment. But there again, as I said, you must interpret them as excessive attachment. And what Krishna tells here is not very practical. You should totally give attachment is not possible. So he doesn't also decry that you must give up all attachments. Excessive attachment is not good.
Here I remember Vivekananda's quotation, love all but don't get attached to anybody.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, don't get attached means there again the meaning is excessive attachment. Don't get into, so then it may force you to do wrong things. It may force you to tell lies in the name of doing good for them. So excessive attachment is not good. So matra, this again is another very profound sloka in this adhyaya which demolishes the argument which Arjuna had thought is very scientific. Arjuna had thought that it's very practical, that because their bodies are not in front of me, I am getting the sadness, grief, and I am not able to touch them, I am not able to talk to them, they are not in front of me, so they are not subject to my indriyas. He says this remorse is coming because you are thinking that you are excessively attached to them, and again you are attached to them in the background of the unawareness about your duty. Your duty is to destroy adharma, and as I said, the judge has to use the rule of law to punish the crime and not think that the perpetrator or the performer of crime is his own person. So attachment should not be there in the performance of duties. This again is a very good message in our offices. For instance, if you are a boss to write the confidential report of your junior, and your junior might have done something very petty wrong thing earlier, but he is a very efficient person, finishes his job work, finishes his files very promptly, and based upon your conception or perception that he has done something bad to you, maybe very petty bad thing, maybe he was expecting him to bring fruits and vegetables, mangoes to his house in the season, he did not do that. So he has a condemnation for him. So based upon that kind of wrong feeling, you should not write a bad CR for him and spoil his career. So this is negative abhimana, that is attachment, aritvadi dvesha rupena, or sneha. Whatever he may do, if he is your brother-in-law or related to you through some kith and kin, and you write a CR irrespective of whether he does a good job or not. So that again is mamata atisneha, that is shobhanadhyasa nimitta sneha rupena or mamata atishaya hetuka aviveka rupena. So these things in the context of our practical life would generate in us emotions which take away our aptitude to perform our duties. So this again is a principle which we should remember. And later on he says your remorse is not based upon scientific evidence, and this Jivatma is eternal, Paramatma is eternal, you cannot kill Jivatma and you cannot do any damage to Jivatma, therefore you should really give up your shoka. So as soon as he comes, he realizes that Arjuna has slightly understood the conception of the Nityatva of Jiva and Nityatva of Paramatma and nature of source of dukkha and sukha, he immediately jumps to the next level of his coaching. So as we said, moha nimittakat shokat. If moha is slightly reduced, ajnana or viparita jnana or anithadana, mithya jnana or misunderstanding is slightly toned down, then immediately he says you give up your shoka. In 4 or 5 slokas he says avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadenam viditvaivam nanu shochitum arhasi atha chainam nityajatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapitvam mahabaho nainam shochitum arhasi jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmad apariharya arthe natvam shochitum arhasi avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata अव्यक्त निधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनम् अन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् देही नित्यम् अवध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
Here I get one doubt, sir. We call it as Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Is it a song or is it in a form of shloka?
Well, it's a very common question which many people ask. Thank you for that. You know, the word Gita, again in Sanskrit we have to go to the etymology. The Gita word, maybe it is Strilinga as Gita, it has nothing to do with the song or the shabda. So Gita, Gai Shabde, Gayati. That means even the so-called Gana is only producing Shabda according to Sanskrit etymology. And Gita, simply because it is Strilinga, it does not mean it's a song. It is something which is narrated. And the way of narration for Bhagavad Gita at least has been in the form of verses. And many young boys and girls, I have seen them, they sing Bhagavad Gita so beautifully and so effectively. So it is
in a rhyming fashion.
It's a rhyming fashion, in a rhyming fashion, and there are many such Gitas in, that is Shruti Gita, Gopi Gita. Then in the 11th Adhyaya of Bhagavatam we have got Uddhava Gita. So Krishna preaches somewhat similar principles, tattvas to Uddhava. Uddhava says that I want to come with you to Parandhama, and Krishna says no, you must remain eternally in Badarikashrama. So then Uddhava asks a number of questions, many questions which Arjuna had asked, and Krishna satisfies them, and that has come to be known as Uddhava Gita.
Even the Ramayana is also in the form of verses.
Yes,
But it is clearly said in the Ramayana that it was sung by Lava and Kusha.
Yes, absolutely.
In the presence of
yes. That is there written in the towards the end Uttara Ramayana when Lava and Kusha are singing in Ayodhya.
Even in Balakanda also it is very clear.
Balakanda also it is clear. And then see, incidentally I may say, when Lava and Kusha sing that in the court of Rama. But there you must see in Valmiki Ramayana, Valmiki describes that it was treated as a great Vidvat Sabha. He calls rishis well versed in different disciplines, in law, in logic, in Dharma Shastra, in Kavya Shastra, in Vedanta, in Chandas Shastra. He collects all of them. So it was not just an entertainment of songs being produced and listening to them, but it was a great Vidvat Sabha to know the message. So Gita in a way is a modality for making the messages go into our heart. So if it is in the musical form, we are able to, we feel entertained. But today, unfortunately, I tell this in many forums of the bhajanas and this one. So don't think that singing Purandaradasa song or Annamacharya songs in a metrical form in a very nice manner is an end in itself. You should be able to understanding its meanings and also convey the meanings to the audience in between. Now I was invited by.
He likes Buddha, he shows his Viswarupa Darshana.
Yes, there also, yes. So in that sense, the situations of different Gitas, contexts are different. So you cannot think that Gita is only as a text of singing, but it is a text of narration of some principles.
In other words, are we to understand that the Gita, essentially the meaning of the Gita is important rather than the song form of it?
Absolutely.
The song form is incidental.
No, song form is only incidental. You know, all these texts of philosophy or Shastras are put in verses in Valmiki, or the entire Vedas, Puranas, Bhagavata, they are all in the form of verses. That is only to facilitate your memorization and narration. If it is in a praise form, I will not be able to make it by heart and narrate it. You know, there are people even today in certain parts of India who are able to reproduce the entire Sanhita of Rigveda, thousands of rigs, and that has come to us in that form. So when they recite it, at least in Tirupati, I always feel enamored by Vedic recitation, the way in which they invoke you while giving Ashirvadams, so profound, so metrically, chandas wise.
Meter, it is understood chandas.
Yes, chandas. So the singing song, as Dr. Ramrao said correctly, has to be not for entertainment of the voice or the musical content of it, but for the message of it.
Many times that the Vedas, the original source of knowledge, they too are in the form of verse, and there they go to the extent, Pandits go to the extent of saying the Vedas' actual merit lies in actually the rendering part of it, not so much the meaning. Is it so?
No, that is the misconception. That is maybe for rationalizing their own expertise and not knowing. But actually, Krishna says that later on, saying that Veda Vada Ratah Partha Nanyadastiti Vadinaha. He says the message of Vedas, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha, soon it comes, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, Nirdvanvo Nitya Sattvasto, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. And then Vedas again have two different levels of meaning. One is so called Karmakanda, the way in which we understand Veda at present. The other is the Adhyatma interpretation, which gives you the modalities of raising your personality to higher level to achieve the Tribunati Tattva and then therefore the Moksha. So that message of Vedas has to be understood, and in fact I have mentioned many times that those who make Veda Sanhita by heart, Pada, Krama, Ghana, Jata, should also study Veda Bhashya. All the Acharyas have written, if not for the whole of Vedas, parts of the Vedas, their Bhashyas, and have shown in the manner in which it needs to be interpreted. So
there is a way of Arohana and Avarohana.
Yeah, that is in the Vedic recitation.
Yes.
But what Dr. Ramirao is asking is that the end of preserving Vedas? The preserving Vedas, or the understanding or the conception of the Vedic Pandits, or I am not decrying the Vedic Pandits, the way in which the system is developed, that is very important to preserve the Vedas as Shrutis and have the Sanhita by hearted is important. But they should have, if not the complete or in-depth understanding of the meanings of the Vedas, at least the broad understanding of the meanings of the Vedas, what messages they give. And similarly, our Purohitas, it's not again a reflection on our Purohitas, they should also be able to tell the meanings of the various mantras. We hardly see Purohitas explaining the meanings of Saptapadi, meanings of the Arundhati Darshana. It's the mantras that are recited, or in the case of Upanayana, telling the boy as to what is the meaning of Gayatri mantra. So every mantra has its own message for our everyday life. So the Purohitas who make the Vedas by heart should also have some knowledge about the meanings and communicate that meaning. Then only it becomes purposeful to preserve, to retain, to foster the Vedic culture, or Vedic culture I do not mean ritualistic culture, but the knowledge culture of our heritage. We must propagate the meanings of our various scriptures, and because we have lost touch with the meanings with the scriptures, there is a certain kind of degradation or decrying their value to the society. So I am sure all work towards not only for our own purpose, but also for the purpose of the society as a whole, to understand the meanings of that is true also of bhajanas. When you sing a song of Annamacharya or Purandradasa or Kanakadasa, you must go to the meanings of it, not just, it is not the raga and the musical part of it, but also the so called yes, verbal part also is equally important. In many forums I mentioned that, but many things in our convention have come in a wrong way, I should say, and some revolutionary steps are required to correct them, you see. So now he comes to the stage of telling Arjuna very effectively that shoka should be removed, should be reduced. So he tells about 8 or 10 slokas that you should give up the shoka, nanu shochitum arhasi. Then immediately when he feels convinced that shoka, his sadness has come down, suddenly he says, you get ready for yuddha. Swadharmamapi chaveksha na vikampitum dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate yadrichaya chopapannam swargadvaram apavrutam sukhina kshatriyah partha labhante yuddham idrisham. See the sequential, stepwise, logical way in which he is trying to remove his vishada. Moha, shoka, manodaurbhalya, then doing total non-functional. Manodaurbhalyam completely being away from the vishadaha, moha nimittakat shokat, then manodaurbhalyam, yasmin sati sarvo vyaparo paramaha bhavati, stopping all the functions. We sit in a corner, don't take interest in anything. Even the ladies may say, I have no interest in cooking, whatever is see when he comes from the office, I will ask him, we will go for food in a hotel. Why? So some sort of depression comes. That kind of feeling comes as a result of the moha. So first remove the moha, tell the patient on the shoka, and then immediately say what is your duty. Swadharmam api chaveksha na vikampitum arhasi. So you should be conscious of what is your swadharma, then no vikampitum. You should not really have any trembling. He had said, Gandhivam sramste hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. So he is answering all those arguments in the stepwise way. Krishna is a very scientific, profound professor.
Gradually from simple to complex he is counseling.
Yes, he is counseling him. So he says, now vikampitum arhasi. Why? You should be conscious of your duty. Swadharmam api chaveksha. Then your yuddha is dharmyat. Dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. It's a very profound statement for him to reflect upon. Dharmya.
Earlier Arjuna asked him to tell him what is Shreyas.
Yeah, what is Shreyas? So here he says this is your Shreyas. Dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Because you are Kshatriya and your yuddha is dharmya. Dharmya means dharmasya idam dharmyam in Sanskrit. Dharma is his prescribed function. So what is being asked to you to do is the prescribed function of your varna. Dharma also means Paramatma. Dharayati iti dharma, the one who sustains everything. You see, so there are several etymological meanings for dharma. Dharayati iti dharaha. Dharaha miyate anena iti dharmaha. The one who sustains the entire universe is dharaha. And dharaha miyate, by practicing which code of conduct you will be able to understand Paramatma. Another is dharayati iti dharmaha. The one who sustains the entire world is dharma. So dharma is the name for the Paramatma himself. So dharmya, dharmasya idam, dharmasya sambadham. That means your prescribed duty of yuddha you must perform with a mindset that it is an aradhana of Paramatma. it is dedicated to Paramatma. So by using the word dharmya, he has already narrated the modality in which he should perform his duty, which is going to be the message of Bhagavad Gita throughout by different arguments, different theories and different modalities. The ultimate message is that everyone should perform his prescribed duty without over obsession about the results. He should have goals and results and targets and visions and objectives, but don't get over obsessed while you are performing your duty. Then you should do it without any personal agenda. You should do it as a service of Paramatma, Bhagavad Aradhana Buddhi, and as a service to the corporate sector, service to the nation, service to the mankind. Have more robust goals in your mind, not as getting something personally in the immediate future.